Well, now France 24's James Creedon has been taking a look at how Xi Jinping's trip has been, what the reaction has been in the press here. Tell us what you found.
Yes, Nadia. So, I mean, I suppose echoes of what we've been seeing in that report, but certainly France has been the most reticent in expressing concern about the Belt and Road Initiative, the strategic bid to build infrastructure links between China and Europe and a lot of other countries in between. But France only has about 1 or 2%, for example, exports to China, Chinese imports. It's only about 1 or 2% from France, whereas that's about 5 times that amount from Germany. So France, I think, was very eager during this trip to reassert the fact that Europe is very much united on this question, that you can't sort of pick and choose or divide and conquer. Maybe there is, I think, a degree of scepticism on the part of the European Union that this is what's going on. China is pushing its own pawns. This is a piece in the New York Times, particularly in parts of China where for decades French dominance has been undisputed. So that's the concern, that whether it be strategic interests such as in Africa, that China is essentially pushing its own pawns. So Emmanuel Macron was very clear in saying, when you're talking to France, you're talking to Europe. But you can see, if you look at the Chinese press here, for example, the state broadcaster or the state online website Xinhua, that they don't really buy into that perception of things. The Chinese president, they say here, proposed that in order to develop the relations between China and France in a sound way, the two countries should have political mutual trust and practical cooperation, friendly sentiments. In other words, what's all this skepticism about our goodwill and what our intentions are wherever it might be? In the Washington Post, they're looking at the case of Italy, which is, of course, where Xi Jinping came from. They're saying that really this was a sign of China's new power in Europe. China lays down a marker in Europe. Of course, Italy became the first member of the group of 7 major developed economies to formally join the Belt and Roads Initiative. So basically, this piece is pointing out that Italian officials say that they're better positioned to handle Chinese investment without surrendering sovereignty, that this is not something we need to be concerned about. Again, in this Washington Post piece, you have warnings from France. This is going back to even last week, where they warned of the risk of European nations becoming vassal states. Go back to the Chinese state media. This is another piece talking about those connections with Italy. And you have utter skepticism in that regard. Italy, a major global economic power, has its own rights and the ability to defend where its national interests lie. The Belt and Roads Initiative, skeptics need to discard their obsolete zero-sum mentality and move beyond ideological entrenchment. In other words, this is a win-win situation. China is investing in Europe. Europe will win from that. You'll have cities like Trieste that could become one of the most important port cities in Europe. Again, trumping Rotterdam in the Netherlands, or maybe even Hamburg in Germany. So everybody wins. But actually, if you look at other journalism, would be the fear that Emmanuel Macron expressed when he spoke about vassal states. You have countries such as Sri Lanka who have become embroiled in what they call debt trap diplomacy here. In other words, this is the idea that Chinese investments then leave the countries in some ways cash-strapped, managing those said investments, and then China comes in and buys up the whole lot. So is it all about win-win attitude? Perhaps not. Perhaps there is still a little bit of zero-sum mentality coming from the Chinese side, despite their dismissal of those concerns.
James, let's go to somewhere quite different now, though, and what is our other top story tonight, the situation in Algeria. You've been taking a look at some online reaction to what's been happening there. That's
right. Very, very quickly on this one, because there's a lot on it already in the news, I guess, but Algeria, the army has urged the removal of President Abdelaziz Bouteflika. Now, that's leading to a lot of reactions online. Karim Amelal here saying, well, you know, we're seeing the Article 102 of the Constitution being invoked, but let's see what happens next, because it does seem now like that this is still very unclear. Many people talking about whether or not this could be a constitutional coup d'etat. The army, of course, getting involved here. It was an Algerian general who made these comments. Weeks ago, Algeria got Bouteflika's bloodless coup, misspelled there, but you get the sentiment. Today, we had the proper coup d'etat. That was when Bouteflika announced that he was going to extend his 4th term somewhat indefinitely. You have this piece as well. There's others, I should say, former leading figures in the ruling party saying that this is a constitutional decision. It's not a coup d'etat at all. But Jeune Afrique here saying that Gaïd Salah, that's the general in question, understood that Bouteflika and his 2 brothers, the power clique, are politically finished. So in other words, this is a sort of a strategic move. You have cartoons such as this one showing the general sort of basically pushing him off a cliff. Now, that might seem inappropriate. I was going to briefly end on this, but I'm not sure if we'll have time to go in fully into detail about it. Laughter and satire has been a huge feature of what's been going on in Algeria for the last number of weeks. The laughter of dignity, comedy and dissent in the Algerian popular protests. It essentially allowed people in the streets to express politicised acts and a national resistance narrative in a way which previously would have been unacceptable. The use of humour to communicate and address authorities has been instrumental in creating a carnivalesque mood of dissent. Remember that in Algeria, really, freedom of speech was very, very curtailed. Anyway, lots more to say on that. I might finish on one image, because I think this has been going viral, Nadia. This is Pope Francis, a couple of days ago, in images that have gone viral. He's pulling his hand away repeatedly over the course of about 1 minute in this video from people who come up he's visiting Loreto in Italy. They're trying to kiss his ring, which is traditional of the Pope, and he keeps pulling his hand back in this way that's actually almost aggressive. But those images have gone viral for various reasons. People wondering, is it him saying, oh, you don't need to have this kind of veneration of the Pope in the old style way? Or others saying, you know, does he even want to be Pope at all? What's this all about?
What is it all about? We have no answers, but good images. Thank you very much, James. James Creedon there with Media Watch.